Right, it's the start of an exciting new era today, folks. It's the era of Kev is finally using a monitor. My face looks much bigger than usual. I don't think the camera's set up exactly where it normally is. What it does mean, in theory, is I'll spend less time looking down the corner of the screen like that and more time actually looking straight out like a normal person. Although I think before we get into the game, I need to zoom out a little bit because no one needs a massive close-up of my face like this. Hello and welcome to Season 20, Episode 6 of Non-League to Legend. I'm Kev, and coming up on today's episode, we're at home against Fulham and then away against West Ham in the Premier League. I did toy with which episode to show you. I think we're probably going to do a couple of episodes fairly close together as we start to move towards the business end of the season, because try as we might, we don't seem to be able to get knocked out of cup competitions at the moment. So we've absolutely thumped QPR in the FA Cup fourth round most recently, but we're also in the EFL Cup final again against Chelsea. We've got the first knockout round of the Europa League coming up against Porto. I wanted to give you an update on the Premier League today because, as you can see, form has been delicious in the Premier League. An awful lot of green in there since the horrible defeat against Arsenal. So we're establishing ourselves rather nicely for a title push. I know we're down in fourth, but look, we've got a game in hand and better goal difference than all these teams above us. We're playing our game in hand right now. If we beat Fulham, we go top of the league at the 25 game mark, which is a remarkable point of the season to hit top of the league and sets us up really nicely. I do kind of feel like we need to get knocked out of one or both of these cup competitions. The EFL Cup, there's one game left. I can live with one game left in that. We need to really focus in though and make a decision. Are we trying to win all three cups, or are we trying to win the Premier League? We have a paper-thin squad. We all identified that at the start of the season. One or two injuries could ruin us completely. We can't win the Premier League and go deep in these two cup competitions when we've already got to the final of one of them. So we're going to see how we go in these two matches against Fulham and West Ham, and then decide from there how we approach these games. Because, I mean, there's 4 cup games in a row there. I'm not going to show you all of them. I think what we'll probably do is the second leg against Porto, and then maybe the EFL Cup final, or maybe the Ipswich. If it's Ipswich in the FA Cup, maybe Ipswich. Who knows? But, I mean, to be fair, that and that are likely to be the reserves. Not that we've got much. I mean, it's like 4 players change when we play our reserves. The Europa League, I really don't know what to do with. The reason to try and win the Europa League is to try and get into the Champions League the following season. Is there any other benefit to winning it? Surely, if we're not in it, we're going to qualify for the Champions League anyway. And by not being in it, we give ourselves a good chance of focusing on the Premier League while these 3 teams are all messing around in the Champions League. There's a lot of logic towards trying to get ourselves knocked out the EFL of the Europa League. Let me know down in the comments what you would do in this situation. So before we get into any of that, it becomes a non-issue if we lose both the games on today's episode. So we need a couple of good solid Premier League wins, and we need to close today's episode top of the league. If we're not top of the league at the end of this episode, my mind is made up. We're going to go and try and win the cups, and we'll come back for the league next year. But if we're top of the league, the temptation is going to be too strong to just throw everything behind trying to do that, because there's a few of these players who aren't necessarily going to be around much longer. Ziyech is getting on a bit. Demchenko is getting on a bit and is now on over 200 grand a week thanks to a contract clause. So he's got to move on in the summer. We can't be paying a 34-year-old £205,000 a week when we've got a 50 goal a season Premier League striker who's just hovering around in the reserves somewhere. I don't even know where Vendrig is. Presumably he's injured, which is why good old Lucas hasn't even bothered to put him on the bench. In fact, let's just narrow this down a little bit. Where is Michael Vendrig? He's not even injured. He's not fully fit, but he's fit enough to sit on the bench, and Lucas is saying, no, you know what? We've got James Burgess, we've got Oscar, we're rotating a little bit. Vendrig, just stay at home today, lad. So, the team for today's game, we're still persisting with Diaz in goal, and then we've got a back 4 of Nyhouse, Caetano, Eriksson and Dye. Sedman, Medor and Ziyech around midfield, with Ortega in behind Demchenko and Iribarren. Iribarren is still scoring goals like the world is running out of them. He's got 21 goals from 20 Premier League starts, 33 goals from 32 games in all competitions. I've never, ever known a striker like it. If he can keep this up through the end of the season, it's going to be one of the finest achievements I've ever seen from a Football Manager player. But ridiculously, backing him up, we've got Oscar with 20 goals from 29 starts from midfield. Demchenko's scoring at more than a goal every other game. The only lad letting the side down is Vendrig, which is why he's not even in the team today. So, enough waffle. We're playing Fulham. It is a massive, massive game. I can't emphasise enough how excited I'm going to get if we go top of the league, or even if it's just for a few minutes, even if we go and lose the following match. Just the thought of being top of the Premier League. I know it's taken us 20 years to get to this point, but at the start of the season, I didn't expect it to be something we'd be realistically challenging for this year. We didn't even qualify for the Champions League last year, remember? This year was all about re-establishing ourselves as a Champions League club, maybe having a few cup runs. Iribarren's in and usually would score that kind of chance. Hopefully I haven't talked about too much and ruined him. We all know that this pesky game has a habit of listening to what I'm saying on the commentary, and if it's picked up that I'm high on Iribarren at the moment, it doesn't matter, because Demchenko heard me say, he's getting on a bit. He's not worth 200 grand a week. Well, you know what, boss? I'm just going to pick the ball up anywhere on the pitch, shoot on sight, and score, and challenge you to drop me. And that's what he's done. And that is, I mean, it's a remarkable finish. Let's have a look. Ortega knocks it down first time to Demchenko, takes one touch, which just ruins the defender completely, opens everything up, gives himself some space, and then just thumps it so hard that it doesn't matter that it's along the ground and effectively straight at the keeper, because it just whistles past him before the keeper has time to react. And can I not do maths? Weren't we on 52 points before? I need to rewind the tapes. You lot have probably already told me 50 times over that my maths is wrong. I'm certain that before this match started, we were on 52 points. But we couldn't have been, because we had a better goal difference than Arsenal and we were below them. What was I thinking? 5 points for a win? I mean, it's still a nice position to be in, 2 points off the top with a better goal difference, but I'm really confused now. I'm certain, absolutely certain, that it said we were on 52 points. And I know I couldn't have been, and I know you lot will all tell me I'm an idiot, and probably already have in the comments by the time we got to this point in the video, but I don't understand how I could make a mistake like that. I have eyes. They mostly work. I know I'm a spectacle wearer, but that doesn't mean I misread numbers, although maybe it does. Perhaps that's why I can't manage the finances of a football club. Perhaps I just see the numbers wrong because of my eye disability. This is worthy of further investigation, but for now we really could do with a goal. And Nyhouse has got it in a position we don't really want to see Nyhouse having it. Sedman's tracking back and doesn't quite get there, but does intercept at the second time of asking. Ziyech loses out on the ball in the centre circle there, and we're under a little bit of pressure. And luckily, any striker I've ever come across with the name Koulibaly, that's their idea of a shot on goal. If you don't know, look up Suleimani Koulibaly. Used to play for my team, Posh. That's the kind of nonsense we used to see out of him. Followed by a cartwheel or something. Right, we're going to bring on James Burgess. I would really like to have brought on Vendrig now, even an unfit Vendrig. Perhaps if we're going to take a title challenge seriously, after 20 seasons, I need to start picking my own substitutes. Although, it sounds like a lot of work. What am I paying Lucas for? We all know he can't pick a player, and his star ratings are off. If I'm not even asking him to pick the substitutes anymore, we may as well just send him home. So we were on 50 points before the match. Fulham have now equalised. This does help me make my decision. If it's Diaz, Igor's breathing down your neck and you're giving me that. He seems to not be aware of the precarious state his place in this team is. I'm really intrigued what you lot all think about what we should be doing with regard to these cup competitions. Because, the other consideration... In fact, what am I doing messing around bringing a right back on? We've got Oscar on the bench and we need a goal. Let's take Medor off, drop Ortega back into the midfield, just shuffle all them around a little bit, and hopefully Oscar can produce some magic. What was I saying? No idea. I need to make notes while I'm doing this. We're not even going to beat this. I mean, this goes a long way towards helping me decide what to do. I know what I was saying. As far as the Hall of Fame is concerned, what gets me more Hall of Fame points? Winning the Premier League or winning the EFL Cup, the FA Cup and the Europa League? Answers on a postcard or down in the comments. Minimal changes for the West Ham game. Oscar comes into the midfield. I don't know whether I should be swapping him around with Ortega. That's something we might look to play around with as the game goes on. Nyhouse in. Nyhouse was already in. No other changes. Kev knows what he's doing. I've fiddled with the camera again in between matches. I probably looked like I just jumped up in the air when we switched over with the little fade thing. So we'll get used to this new setup at some point. So let's get into the West Ham game anyway. We need a win. I was so excited at the prospect of being top of the league at the end of the episode. And looking at that league table, in actual fact, it looks like somehow all three of the teams above us messed up their next game. So if we had have beaten Fulham and beaten West Ham, we still could have ended up top of the league at the end of the episode. But we didn't get the win against Fulham, and we'll probably not beat West Ham either. The game wants us to push for the cups, I think. That's why it's making our run through the cups relatively straightforward so far, and punishing us in the league against teams that we should be doing better than we are at. I am nervous at all this talk of which competition should we win at the end of the season when we've won nothing. You're all going to slaughter me. But I don't know. These are, when you're building a major football club, these are surely the kind of grown-up things you need to be thinking about. You've got to have priorities. The board, for example, couldn't care less that we could win the EFL Cup for the second year in a row. They've said so much in my expectations. They're just not interested. So I've done everything I can to try and get knocked out of that competition. I've been playing the reserves at every opportunity, and they just won't lose. They're a good bunch of reserves. So perhaps we should just stick them in the FA Cup as well. But then the board want the semi-final of the FA Cup. They want I think they want a final of the Europa League or something silly. Yet they then only want, I think it's just Europa League qualification in the league. So I guess we need to follow the board priorities. They're more interested in deep cup runs than a title challenge. Although we all know they'll change their tune if we end up delivering a league title for them. But based on the performances in these two local derbies in this episode, we can completely forget about winning the league. Fulham are in a relegation battle. West Ham not much better. We've drawn against Fulham. We're going to lose against West Ham. This is not going the way I'd hoped to. There's Sandy Patterson pulling the strings in midfield as well. He's decided to punish us for letting him go. Everyone's playing poorly today. I wonder if their minds are on the Porto game or the EFL Cup final or wherever. They've obviously got different priorities to winning the league, because if they really wanted to win the league, they'd win games like this. Let's make some substitutions. We have got Michael Vendrick on the bench today, and he's definitely coming on. We're also going to get Oscar up where we should have made that change a little bit sooner. Sedman's going to come on into midfield. That'll do for now. So we've got what pre-season I considered to be my dream front three. For only about the second or third time, and I don't think they've played a full match together as a threesome, they've got the opportunity now, 20 minutes to go, to win us this game and show me why that needs to be the front three that we use for the rest of the season. And the two lowest ratings on the pitch are Oscar and Iribarren. Iribarren, I don't know if he's tired, struggling a little bit. I think we'll probably take Oscar off just because we can't have an episode where Iribarren doesn't score. That seems unheard of. We'll drop Vendrick back and he can play in behind Burgess and Iribarren. And we need a goal. We can't lose. I mean, this has been a pathetic episode. I thought, show him a couple of easy league games. We'll get a few wins on the board before we start going losing all these cup ties. Then they won't batter me quite so much then. But here you go. 1 point from 2 games. That's the worst defending I've ever seen. And we deserve to have conceded a second goal. We have not looked up the races at all today. And what could have been a glorious episode culminating in us being top of the league and me dancing around the room and us thinking, right, let's forget about the cup competitions. I know we're still only 4 points off the top of the league, but we're playing so poorly that we're going to try and win. We're going to try and win the Europa League. Not bothered so much about the FA Cup. We're going to win the Europa League. I've decided. Unless we get knocked out by Porto, then we'll win the FA Cup. Unless we're knocked out by Ipswich, then we'll just try and win the EFL Cup. But then we've got to play Chelsea. This season could go badly wrong. If you've enjoyed that today, please make sure you pop a like on there for me. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. And thank you very much for watching.